This is Interstate 5 in northern Los Angeles County, California. Something you may notice that's odd about this configuration of the freeway. The lanes seem to be on opposite sides, and you find the opposing traffic to your right rather than to your left, which is more common in the United States. So what's the deal here? This is the Castaic crossover. I'm standing here at the bottom of the Castaic crossover. That's northbound Interstate 5 there to my left. That freeway there. The bridge that's crossing over is southbound Interstate 5. So this is the point where the crossover ends and the southbound traffic sweeps back over the northbound traffic to resume being on the right-hand side of the road. But for the next 4.5 miles, the carriageways are reversed. The northbound lanes are on the left as they go up the canyon. It's Marple Canyon. And the southbound lanes are on the right, the traffic coming toward us. Exactly the reverse of what we usually see on roads in the United States. In fact, there's only a couple of other places in the whole country where a road crosses sides like this. This bridge was built in 1969. The whole crossover wasn't completed until later in 1970. The lanes crossing underneath the bridge, the northbound lanes, were the original lanes from US 99 as it was constructed in 1933. The ones that are coming down the hill on this side were the ones that were added between 1969 and 1970. The elevation here at the bottom is about 1,200 feet. When it gets to the top of the canyon up near Violin Summit, it'll be 2,200 feet in elevation. So about 1,000 feet elevation gain over 4.5 miles or so, or averaging about 4.2% grade.
I've heard some people speculate that the reason for the crossover was to create an easier climb for the trucks. And well, I guess that's on the right track, because the reason does have something to do with the hill and trucks, but uphill trucks weren't the reason. But before I get to that, let's take a look at the state of affairs in the mid-1960s and how things got to that point. This road was built, the one where the northbound lanes are now, this road was built in 1933, and it was the replacement for an even earlier road, the original Ridge Route, which was constructed in 1915 and then paved with concrete in 1917. The original Ridge Route was a twisty, tortuous road which had hundreds of curves, enough curves in fact to amount to over 100 complete circles. The roadway hugged the tops of the mountain ridges as it wound around the rugged topography, earning it its name, the Ridge Route. The Ridge Route was built more than a full decade before the U.S. highway system was created. So while the Ridge Route eventually became synonymous with US 99, US 99 wasn't created until November of 1926. That original road is still there, but a major portion of it has been closed for many years due to sliding, which has eroded that roadbed and rendered it unsafe for vehicular traffic. However, the portion of the old road which is near to the Castaic crossover is still in use and actively maintained by Los Angeles County. Let's check out some road artifacts found between Lake Hughes Road and Templin Highway.
Having the presence of Interstate 5 as an 8-lane freeway for the last 50 years, it's easy to forget just how rugged this terrain is and what an engineering challenge it was to first complete the Ridge Route over this mountain range. Here's a look at the curvature of the 1915 road. See, it comes around the bend there, and then it passes this point where I'm standing here in the middle of the road. Then it continues off to the left around that knob, snakes its way down to where that SUV is climbing. Far off across the way there, you can see all the trucks climbing. Those are the northbound lanes of Interstate 5, climbing up on the Ridge Route alternate, the 1933 road. And somewhere between here and there are the southbound lanes of Interstate 5. Further down in the gully, not visible from this point, but they are between this point and the alternate road from 1933. This looks like original concrete here from the 1915 section. The curve has been shortened. This section's been carved out, but by looking at the concrete here, you can tell that originally the curve was much sharper as it came around the bend here. And I imagine that pull out there a little further down on the other side of the road also was an original curve. So the road's been straightened somewhat, and obviously all of this pavement on top of the concrete is newer as well. But this concrete here has been here for 110 years now. It's really interesting to see all of the layers of asphalt that have been put on top of this original concrete. This road's been here for a long time. Looks like we have some original concrete here too. It's a little difficult to tell, and it's on the other side of a barbed wire fence, but I see cracks, so that tells me it's probably concrete. And right at the edge of the roadway here, Interstate 5, there's the southbound lanes right below me, and then the northbound lanes on the other side of Marple Canyon over there. Here's a really good illustration of how the 1915 road has been straightened through the decades. You can see the original concrete there with a much sharper curve, and then the more modern version, the asphalt one, that kind of shortcuts the curve altogether. They probably did it with some fill over here to the left. The original road probably had a more sharp drop off to the left here, and all of this that we see in between was not there.
It wasn't long before the state began to look for ways to improve the drive and enhance safety on that old ridge route. They excavated some cuts and straightened some curves, but it soon became clear that a better road would be needed. The engineers plotted a brand new alignment to the west of the original ridge route. That newer road, called the Ridge Route Alternate, opened in 1933 as a 3-lane highway, 1 lane in each direction, with a center lane for passing in both directions. It was a dangerous configuration which quickly became known as a suicide lane because vehicles raced toward each other at very high speeds. After World War II, the entirety of the Ridge Route Alternate was upgraded to a 4-lane facility with 2 lanes in each direction, which now brings us up to the circumstances which led to the Castaic crossover. When the time came to upgrade US 99 to an interstate freeway, the Division of Highways was in a go big or go home mode. This was during a time of great public works development in California, when the state seemed to exude a can-do spirit and constructed so many of the freeways, dams, and other infrastructure that are still in use today. Nothing was impossible. Not even 8-lane freeways over a mountain range that once was nearly impossible to cross. And that was the ambitious plan envisioned here. Double the size of the 4-lane US 99 facility into an 8-lane freeway. But on this particular section of the route, US 99 clung to the edge of Marple Canyon as it ascended the grade toward Violin Summit. There really wasn't any room to build 4 more lanes here, so the planners decided instead to build the additional 4 lanes needed on the other side of the canyon, closer to where the original road from 1915 was located. One direction of traffic would use the new 4 lanes, and the existing 4-lane US 99 roadway would be converted to one-way traffic in order to accommodate the other 4 lanes. It goes without saying that both carriageways would start and end at the same elevations, but the portion in the middle, where the 2 roadways were separated, would present very different elevation profiles. From the point where the 2 sides diverge at the south end, the existing US 99 continued northward for more than 3/4 of a mile before beginning to climb. In contrast, the new roadway began its ascent immediately. This meant that the older US 99 has steeper sections in order for it to catch up and eventually end up matching the elevation of the other road. Thus, the new roadway ended up with a much more consistent grade than the older existing US 99 had. Now, steep uphill grades are difficult for climbing vehicles, especially heavy-laden trucks, but they're even more dangerous for downhill trucks, where overheated brakes result in deadly accidents. This portion of US 99, known as the 5-mile grade, already had a well-deserved reputation, and the state had even built a truck escape route, a place where truckers who lost their brakes on the way downhill could veer away from the traffic and roll up to a safe stop. Here's what the truck escape ramp looked like back in the 1950s. To make the road a little safer, the engineers who were designing the Interstate 5 freeway decided that the newer roadway, the one with the more consistent grade, would offer a safer descent down the hill for truckers because it was less steep. And so, the idea for the Castaic crossover was born. The decision was made. The southbound lanes would use the new roadway, even though it is located to the right of the older roadway, and they built bridges at both ends to facilitate the flipping of the traffic. Let's take a look at what it's like to drive up the Castaic crossover. The overpass here is the southern end of the crossover section. This bridge was completed in 1969. And now we're into the reversed traffic section.
Driving up the climb on the Castaic crossover. These are the former lanes of US 99, originally built as a 3-lane highway in 1933, eventually expanded to 4 lanes. I'm northbound on Interstate 5.
As you drive uphill on the northbound lanes of Interstate 5, the roadway remains at the same elevation for more than 3/4 of a mile beyond the initial crossover point. By the time that the highway begins climbing, look over to your right, yes, to the right, and see that the other carriageway is way up on the hill. The southbound lanes are already 200 feet higher than the northbound lanes before the northbound lanes even begin to ascend the grade. The northbound lanes will necessarily have a steeper climb ahead in order to catch up. As you climb upward, midway up the grade is that old runaway truck escape ramp. As you continue up the hill, look for this tree on the right-hand side, and then look in your rearview mirror to see the old ramp. It's still there today, and it's no longer maintained, and it's mostly overgrown by vegetation, but it's clearly visible if you know what you're looking for. You have to be looking for it intentionally because it faces away from traffic.
About midway up the grade here, off to the left, but it would be facing the opposite direction, is an old truck escape route for the traffic that used to be on the downhill side of this, back when this was 2 lanes in each direction. There's a truck escape ramp that's designed to catch runaway trucks coming down the hill. It's still there. It's a little bit overgrown these days, but if you look carefully, you can see it. I believe it's actually up here where these trees are on the right-hand side. So this slope that's coming down on the left right here is actually the truck escape ramp. I don't know if we can see it there. I don't know if I got that or not. If I didn't, I'll insert something here from Street View so you can take a look at it.
Well, that didn't work so well. Let me show it to you on Google Street View. Here's the tree on the right-hand side, and let me flip the image around. There. I'll zoom in. Now that's the remnant of the truck escape ramp, dating back to the time when southbound traffic used this roadway.
Over there off to the right, you can see the southbound traffic way up on the hill. And this is what I'm talking about, how the lanes are reversed, how we are to the left of the opposing traffic at the moment. Continuing to climb up this grade. That's Marple Canyon in between the two sides. So US 99 was constructed along the west side of the canyon. This truck should not be in the fourth lane. That's against the law here in California. In fact, the truck that's to my right shouldn't be in that lane either. They should all be only in the two rightmost lanes. He at least cleared that, but they're all still in violation there. Don't come back over, buddy. There we go. Now we're coming up to the top of the grade. I usually call this Violin Summit grade. So this bridge that we're about to cross here, just beyond the call box, we're now crossing over the southbound lanes on this bridge. There they are right there. And now we've come to the end of the crossover. So here's the crossover in the southbound direction. Bridge that's passing overhead, those are the northbound lanes. So now we have crossed over. We're on opposite sides at this point. All of this is new road, constructed between 1969 and 1970. All of the northbound traffic, you can see the trucks climbing off to the right. At least I hope you can. The gradient on this side just turned out to be more consistent. So in other words, there were less steep sections. So it was better for the downhill trucks to be on this side. And that's the whole reason they did it. It didn't have to do anything with the climb on the other side, but in order to try to prevent as many runaway trucks as possible.
The downhill drive is less interesting, but there is one point where the original ridge route touches the freeway. As you drive down in the southbound lanes in the crossover section, the old 1915 road abuts the freeway about a half mile from the bottom. Look for the big white water tank to find the spot. It's not original pavement, but it is the original route.
Kind of fun at this point. The old ridge route is right here next to the southbound lanes. Have you ever noticed this when you're headed southbound on Interstate 5 before? This is the original 1915 highway. I hope you enjoyed this episode of This Old Road. And if you did, won't you please consider clicking on the thumbs up so that YouTube will share it with more people who might be interested in this kind of content. And if you enjoy the content on this old road, I'd be honored to have you as a subscriber. Thank you for watching.